born on the track, built for the road, or is it? I think this thing's actually more built for the track. This is the latest generation Honda Type R. Now, where the Type R is unlike almost anything I've ever driven, it is so track focused in every way. You can feel it as you drive along. It's constantly itching to go around corners and wanting to be pushed harder and harder. It's got a large turbo in the engine which kicks in as you get the revs up, and it constantly eggs you on. The Honda Type R, for the first time ever, features a turbocharger. In the past it was a naturally aspirated engine, but now in this latest generation it's the 2-litre engine in its most powerful format ever. It is a brutal 228 kilowatts of power and 400 newton meters of torque, and that makes the Type R exceptionally quick. Now, when you look at the body from the outside of the Type R, you notice that it's got all kinds of little chintzy bits. It's got all kinds of sticking out wide flared arches. It's got a massive ironing board of a wing at the back. It's got these bits sticking out from the sides of the wheels, these air intakes, and little slashes and lines and creases. Now, when you see lines and creases on a Polo Vivo, they generally don't account for much. In the case of the Type R, however, every bit of the body is there to ensure that it sticks to the road. And sticks to the road it does. It feels like glue when you go along. It is incredible how planted this car really is. Now, the Honda Civic Type R is set to compete against rivalry like the Audi RS3, the BMW M2, and the Mercedes A45 AMG. And when you're playing in that kind of playground, you have got to know that you are the best of the best in terms of hot hatch, superpower, and rivalry, and the Honda certainly doesn't fail to deliver. It feels completely pointed and focused at all times. Now, it manages to put down the power incredibly well. What you do find, however, when you mate an engine this big with that much power in such a small body, despite a wing at the back the size of Arizona, and all kinds of slashes and gills and air intakes which are all designed to plant this car on the road, you still find there's that bit of turbo lag which kicks in, and when it does, you get that bit of extra torque steer fighting back at you. But I think that's part of what makes the Type R such a thriller to drive. You constantly are holding on to it. At any time as you go around a bend, it's fighting to try and take you apart. And that's what makes the Type R such an incredibly special drive. You can see that Honda, they're aiming at the Ayrton Senna in all of us. They're aiming at the racing driver. You've got this little red slash in the middle of the steering wheel. This lets you know where your wheels are pointing. Something great for the track, and equally nice on a tight, winding road like this one. Now, another thing when you look at the outside of the body of the Honda is, you notice that it rides on these super low profile 19-inch tires, and the brakes are by Brembo. These sporty names and styles continue throughout the body. It's got all kinds of wide flared arches. It's got this chicken wire front. It has the kind of performance bits that sit only on a high performance super hot hatch. Now, you notice as you drive along, it's got these little lights that come on in the front of the dash. Now, these little lights here denote when you are revving it really high, and they will go all the way to a point of red when you're redlining it at close to 8,000 revs. In the past, the Honda Type R would redline at 9,000 revs, but with this latest generation, with its turbocharger, whilst it doesn't rev quite as high as the old Type R, you still find that it's begging you to push it harder and harder. And then you look over just to the right of the dash and you see this button. This is the R Sport button. As if this car isn't crazy and mighty enough in its regular driving modes, when you press the R Sport button, it just simply feels tighter and firmer and pushes you that bit harder. It lets you know that you're not sitting in anything. You in fact are sitting in a Type R. Now, when I look in front of me on the dash, it's a fairly sparse and simplistic place. You've got this Android-based front touchscreen. You've got your air conditioning controls and pretty much little else to take your eyes off the road, because when you drive a Type R, the only thing you're going to be focusing on is how quickly you're going around the corner and just how much G you're generating. And it's a good job you're focusing on that, because when you put into R mode, suddenly the center display next to your instrument cluster gives you a readout. Now this readout lets you know the percentage of your acceleration. It lets you know the amount of G you're generating in the corners. It lets you know everything about your performance. These are things you definitely are going to care about when you're a Type R owner. It's hard to sum up the Honda Type R. It's kind of got an intangible sense of track-focused aggression, something that you don't get with almost anything else. And it's for this reason that the Type R always has been very special and remains an incredibly special car. From me, Jason of TechnoBok, this has been a look at Honda's Type R. Until next time, I'll see you guys soon. Cheers for now.
TechnoBok.